A family health nurse for over 30 years in her native Denmark, Lena Dyhrberg always felt that the children she cared for were more aware than most people realized. In her book, Born Wise, Lena shares her philosophy that newborn children have an innate ability to understand, feel, and act immediately without preconception. Lena believes that children as young as newborns understand spoken words as well as feeling and emotions, and that it's important to speak with respect and love around your child. English isn't Lena's first language, so Jennifer Morris spoke with Lena's daughter, Christel, about some of her mother's fascinating ideas.
Well, Christel, I just wanted to tell our listeners, you're so lovely to do this interview for your mom. English is not her first language, so I know you've gone over some of the questions and the answers with her, so we really appreciate you being with us today and talking to us about your mom's book, so thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I'm very happy to be here today.
So, Christel, your mother's intention with this book is to increase respect worldwide for newborns and small children. Why is this a cause that is near and dear to her heart?
My mom believes that our personality is created within the first 2 to 3 years, and the way you're welcomed into this world and your very first experiences are very important for the child's well-being and development, both physically and mentally, and will also be a main factor in shaping your life. My mom herself remembers a lot from when she was a little girl, and her work as a maternity health nurse and a mom of 3, me being the youngest, has convinced her how aware and wise little children are.
So she was a maternity health nurse?
Yes.
So she really got a firsthand experience, and then that being, on top of being a mother herself.
Yeah, for sure. She's worked with babies for over 30 years.
Wow.
So she's gained quite a bit of experience.
Right, exactly.
Sure.
She knows her stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the title of the book is Born Wise. Are children born wise? And by wise, does that mean intuitive knowledge or mental wisdom? What does that mean?
She kind of means with the expression born wise, she mainly means intuitive and emotional knowledge. With her many years of experience, she has learned that newborns sense their parents' feelings on a very high level and even understand the words as well. And of course, the babies can't respond with words, but they'll respond with body language or eye contact or different noises, crying. And an example she also has seen quite a lot is small children not wanting to place their feet flat on the ground, so that if you hold them up, then they won't really stand flat on their feet. They'll just stay up on their toes. And by doing this, the child is saying that maybe there's something that he or she is not happy with. You can say that, the child hasn't really landed, so to speak, or it's not really fully grounded, and maybe needs to be spoken with or to be understood.
Oh, that's really interesting. Now, we talked a little bit earlier about your mom's background, and I know that she's convinced that little children, in addition to mood and voice ranges, also understand the spoken word. How did she come to that conclusion? Yeah,
it's kind of funny. My mom has always spoken with children, also newborns, with the conviction that they fully understand what she's saying. As I said earlier, she's been working with babies for over 30 years, and she has gained this experience, and we have several examples of how the baby is responding with either body language or turning their heads or keeping the eye contact, crying. So she believes that as long as you ask with the intention to listen and get an answer, you will see. And of course, many parents have been quite skeptical over the years with this advice, but has actually all changed their point of view after having tried and received a response. If you're just a bit patient and are actually looking and listening, you will receive an answer.
So what are some of the ways that we can use that knowledge for, our benefit, for our children's benefit, that they are in fact born with the ability to communicate and understand?
My mom believes that we make life more predictable for our babies when we use communication. So when the baby knows what's going to happen, it will also feel more safe. So for instance, if we're going out and we need someone to take care of our baby, it's important to prepare the baby where it's going or who is coming and when we'll be back. And it might seem a bit awkward to some people at first, talking to your newborn baby, but eventually in no time it will feel natural. But you can tell your baby something like, Mom is going to a meeting and Nanny will be here taking care of you and I'll be back tonight. Just kind of like think of it as a normal respect. I mean, you would always tell your older child where you're going.
Right.
And it's kind of the same with your newborn. Just involve it in your daily life.
And parents so often sneak out.
Yeah.
You know, oh, the baby's not looking. Here you go. Okay, I'm going to sneak out the front door.
Exactly, yeah. And then maybe the baby wakes up and are a bit confused, like,
right.
Where's Mommy? Is she coming back? Yeah.
So how important is love and intimacy for a newborn?
Love and intimacy are definitely basic needs for newborns and, of course, all human beings. It's love and intimacy is what gives life meaning. My mom believes that life is emotions, and without emotions, there is no life, really. To be loved by your parents is the foundation for a good life. You can kind of look at it as, well, it's just as important as food. It's also nutrition. Like, food is the physical nutrition and love is the emotional nutrition. And we need both.
Do we need to watch what we say, even around a newborn? I know that you said earlier that your mom believes that newborns can understand the spoken word, but she gives an example in the book about, even retelling the traumatic birth story over and over again in front of the newborn. They really pick that up?
She believes they do, yeah. She thinks it's good to tell your birth story while your child is listening, because then you, like, as a parent, involve your child into the feelings around the birth, which is positive, but just make sure that you're aware to tell your child that it's not her or his fault if we're talking about the difficulties of the birth, because they will they're a bit too good at taking the responsibility in this. And my mom would like me to read a small example of this from the book.
Oh, great.
Very short. It's from chapter 1. It's called The Newborn is Listening. The child, who was only a few weeks old, was crying, and the mother was upset because she couldn't figure out the reason. So we talked about how the birth had gone and how the pregnancy had been. Looking at the child while we were talking, I saw an observant and responsive child. The child stopped crying and whimpering, and instead she became quiet and started to listen. It turned out that the birth had not lived up to expectations, so we talked our way through it. The mother told me about the circumstances surrounding the birth, about which she was unhappy. In the meantime, the child was in her mother's arms, listening. When the mother spoke about the circumstances that had hurt her emotionally and which had been burdensome to her, the child cried. And when we were done talking about what had weighed the mother down, I noticed that the child had fallen asleep. During a follow-up conversation with the mother about the situation, she told me that the child had become calmer and didn't cry miserably anymore. So, that's definitely an example of how much the little child feels.
It's such an interesting book, and it opens your eyes, and it gives you more respect for even a newborn. And I wish that I had had this when my kids were little, Christel.
Oh, that's very nice to hear. Yeah. So hopefully we can spread the message.
Yes, exactly. And I want to tell our listeners, your mom has a personal website where people can read reviews of her book and reviews from families that she's consulted with and helped. That website is sundhedsplejerske.com. And you can also go to Born Wise on Facebook, and you can also get a copy of this on balboapress.com. Christel, thank you so much for being your mom's representative today.
Well, thank you so much for having me.